So if you're starting with Metaspark Studio for creating custom Instagram filters and you have no idea what kind of skills you require, this is a short video that will help you out. So Metaspark Studio requires a lot of different skill sets that might not always be possible for one person. So in this case, we have different aspects that come together where to create an AR experience that is influential for a lot of clients to get views, grab some eyeballs, and to spread their message or reach out to their community or audience base. So first skill that you will require for sure is graphic design. Without graphic design, I don't think it's really a wise idea to get into creating custom Instagram filters. So you'll need it with creating assets, creating scenes, creating different sort of experiences within that one little screen size frame that you get. And it also includes other work like, let's say, compressing assets, editing them, cleaning up images, and so on. Next up, you need some basic knowledge of logic, math, and interactions. So this is when you work in the patch editor and you tell the patch editor, okay, so if this happens, then this should follow, but this should not happen. So you work out the X, Y, and Z of a specific workflow and make sure that there are no errors. So this is where logic and interactions come in handy, but also a bit of math, because you might be working with keyframes, which we'll be talking about later. You'll be working with a few ifs and not signals, so, and a few switches, and these can be a bit confusing when you're a beginner to this, but I think you can pick that up as you go. Next up is keyframing. So this is something that's important for animations and changing the way a person might interact or perceive a certain set of 2D or 3D objects within a filter. So keyframing is as simple as, let's say, if you worked in Adobe Premiere Pro, you know how to change the size of text or to apply a transition. So if you got that covered, then keyframes here shouldn't be an issue either. Next up is a bit difficult when it comes to creating Instagram filters is when the client requests for audio, and this request comes as custom audio that you cannot use through royalty free music or anything like that. So be it audio, soundtracks, or SFX. So this is when it comes in handy to either know a bit of, let's say, FL Studio or Pro Tools or anything of the sort, instead of then having to outsource it to someone else. So a small course on working with digital audio workstations will serve you well. Next up is something that's usually a step up from graphic design itself, and that is 3D modeling. So you have free tools like Blender, and you can work with them to create models, rig them, animate them, and even give them textures. So this is the major hurdle for a lot of creators who work with 2D. It's not that you cannot get too far with 2D, but that's usually good for your own projects. If you're looking for clients, then they will ask for 3D models at some points to be used, and this is where you need a bit of help or a bit of guidance when it comes to creating and deploying 3D models. Lastly, scripting, and this is useful for those high quality games that you see on Instagram, which have scores up to 1,000 and more, or with lifelines like that you might see in Zelda. So if you know a bit of scripting, a bit of JavaScript, this goes a long way. It's not necessary to know scripting as such or to know code or things like that, but you might reach a point in your filter where you might have to rely or again outsource your project to someone else. So if you can get around to learning scripting, then I guess that works in your favor. But let's say you are running an AR studio, you are offering custom Instagram filters as a freelancer or anything of the sort, then these are some soft skills that I think you should pick up. The first one is cold emailing, where you approach clients via emails or maybe a DM and ask them if they would like a custom Instagram filter. This takes a lot of patience. So you cannot just get started on day one and expect a client to come flooding in wanting to work with you. So cold emails go first, then come the proposal. So the client will ask, what's your portfolio like? or what have you done so far, and how does this benefit me? So a good proposal goes a long way in making sure that the client trusts you, especially if it's their first time, and to make sure that they keep their promise and you keep yours. You tie each other with a contract where your basic needs and their basic needs are met, so there is no miscommunication of expectations, and you can then proceed to work. And it's always good to have a workflow or a process in place where you know how you will be designing your Instagram filter, and how much time it will be delivered. So let's say 7 to 14 days, let's say 5 revisions or so on. So you have your process, you know when to send it across, when to share the filter or the progress, or if there are any roadblocks, then how you approach the situation comes as a part of your workflow. Lastly, of course, then there's the issue with like payments and taxes. Should you take an advance or whatnot? How much taxes? What's the invoice going to be like? So this is something you would face in any regular business. So I think you'll be able to take care of yourself well. And support is something you add on as a service for custom Instagram filters. So most of the time these filters need to be updated. It's just a few clicks sometimes. Sometimes you might need to change a few things if it's a script being used. So being able to offer support comes in handy when a client wants a long-term relationship where they might want you for just one filter but making sure it works all the time, or multiple filters where they want to split test different options and see what works best for them. So all in all, these are some of the skills that you require to get started. You don't need to have all of them, but a few of them go a long way in helping you out in your journey. I hope it helps. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. This is Anthony from the All Seeing One, and I'll see you soon.